their whole lives.
Which is a perfect segue to her running mate. Are you guys big Tim Walz fans here?
Neither am I.
By the way, I know what you're thinking. Are you not excited to see J.D. Vance debate Tim Walz? Is that not going to be one of the best things ever? They better have a mercy rule. Who's moderating that debate?
Nora O'Donnell from CBS, and I think what actually might happen based on his military service is he's going to bail out at the last minute but say he went anyway. I think that's the Tim Walz approach to the debate.
By his own admission, he says he's not a good debater. Okay, I don't know. I don't even know what to make of that. J.D. Vance is one of the best we have, by the way, as you could tell. But let's just look at the record, because not only has Kamala Harris stood for foreigners over Americans in every possible way. Let's look at Tim Walz. Tim Walz, taxpayer-funded tuition for illegals in Minnesota. Correct me if I get any of this wrong.
That's right.
The driver's licenses for illegals. And also, I know there are other policies as well that were accommodating foreigners in the state of Minnesota. On top of that, there's so much there that needs to be explained, yet he does not take questions. And I want all of you to understand this. If you're an undecided voter watching this at home, because we have millions of people watching this, or if you're an undecided voter here tonight, the ticket that is willing on a daily basis to take questions from reporters is probably the ticket that should govern your country, not the one that runs away from reporters. And if I may editorialize just a little bit more, why are reporters and journalists continually providing cover for the side that won't talk to them? It's very bizarre. It's like, at some point, when will these reporters say, I'm not going to carry your water anymore because you won't even allow me to ask a question? By the way, how pathetic was that CNN interview with Kamala Harris and Tim Walz? The whole thing was very weird. So Tim Walz, with George Floyd, allowed Minneapolis to burn and did not call in the National Guard within 24 hours. Talk about Tim Walz, without a doubt, the most radical, out-of-touch vice presidential selection in modern American political history.
Yes, so much we could talk about, and I think it's important to reinforce this just drives home how terrible Kamala Harris's judgment is, right? Now, she says she doesn't want to defund the police, even though she supported those policies. Then she goes and picks a VP nominee who allowed rioters to burn Minneapolis to the ground and actually pushed back against Donald Trump when he said that he wanted to send in the National Guard to save Minneapolis. And thank God, eventually, Donald Trump did exactly that. Finally, Tim Walz relented. But after, of course, $13 billion damage had been done. This is a guy who, I was asked by John Carl of ABC, said, you've accused Tim Walz of wanting to kidnap people who don't want to consent to gender reassignment for their kids. And I said, well, he signed legislation, he supported legislation that would take children away from their parents if their parents don't want to do sex changes. How would you define that as anything other than kidnapping? And this is a guy, by the way, Charlie, who says that he believes in small government, that he wants the government to stay out of your bedroom. He wants the government to steal your children from you if you don't agree with Tim Walz's values. That is not small government. That's disgusting, and he should be ashamed of himself. Yeah. But look, But the most fundamental issue, and we're going to keep on going back to it, Charlie, is you cannot stand for working people. He says that he's a union guy, that he supports union people, that he supports working people. You can't stand for working people if you're trying to import millions of illegal aliens to steal their jobs. There is no way that you can square that circle. The biggest threat to American workers in this country, the biggest threat to Americans being able to afford a home is when Kamala Harris has let 25 million illegal aliens just set up shop in this country. So Tim Walz doesn't stand for workers. He stands for the Democrat Party donors, and that's exactly who's going to serve as vice president. We're going to serve the people. That's who Donald J. Trump and I believe we ought to serve and we ought to fight for.
So let's expand on one of those points, which I think is very important.